Hey everyone, for this tutorial I'm going to show you Unity's animation editor. Go ahead and click on your first project test project, or just go ahead and create a new project. It's not that big of a deal. This was my scene for the Game Objects, Colliders, and Rigid Bodies tutorial. I'm going to clean up my assets a little bit by creating a folder called Physics Materials, pressing enter and dragging my bouncy ball material in there. Alright, and now that we've done that, I am going to show you how to use the animation editor. Go up to Window, Animation, and it'll pop up this window here. This is the Unity Animation Editor. I personally like to click and drag this tab over next to the console, not so that it is beside the console because it needs more room than that, but so that it is overlapping and that we can click the console and the animation editor and switch between the two. We are going to be focusing on the animation editor. It says no animatable object selected. I don't want to do it in this scene because this is the scene that we were using from before. So I'm going to click on my scenes folder, double click to open it, and I'm going to right click and create a scene. And I'm going to call it animation testing. Double click on that scene to open it, and it's going to be a new scene. Next, right click, press 3D object, and then cube, and let's zoom in here. I am going to turn our cube 45 degrees by the x-axis, rotating it. And this is going to help us know that it is moving and rotating when we animate it. I'm going to double click on that. There we go. If you're having a hard time rotating, make sure that you've double clicked on your cube and that you're selecting your cube. It'll help orient your rotation better. Now, with that cube selected, I am going to press create down here. If I drag this a little more this way for now, just to read that, it'll say to begin animating cube, create an animator and an animation clip. To do that, we're going to press this create button. So I'm going to scooch this window back this way and press create. This is going to bring up your file explorer. It is going to open up a folder in your assets. I'm going to go back to assets. Here you can see that my physics material folder and my scenes folder, they're here, just like they are in my project workspace. I'm going to right click here, create a new folder, and call that animations. Press enter. Then I'm going to double click on that to open that folder up and name this animation spinning cube. Then I'm going to press save. Now you'll see that this is different. To start animating, we are going to press add property. This is whatever property we are going to be changing. This becomes useful if you want to have an animation for many different objects. You can just change the transform. Let's add a rotation transform property by clicking that little icon there. Then it is going to add 2 keyframes, one at the beginning and one at the end. What a keyframe is it basically saves the state of the object, whatever the property was. So in this case, it's going to hold our cube's rotation in that keyframe, and then as it travels, when you press the play button, as that white button travels to the next keyframe, it transforms in the way that you want it to once it gets to this keyframe. And by the time it gets to the keyframe, it'll be what you set this keyframe as. That is a lot of, that's a mouthful right now. So let me show you what I actually mean by doing it. So far, you see no changes if I scroll this back and forth, and that is because both of these keyframes say one thing. They are rotation. And since this blue is highlighting the rotation, you'll see that that is what is affected by that. It is a 45-degree angle by the x-axis right now, and it will not stop being that. It is the same when you go to the last keyframe. We are going to go right into the middle. And we are going to press this red record button. Now that we have that recording, it is going to add a keyframe to whatever change I add in this moment. Let's take our Y axis for rotation and turn it 180 degrees and press enter. Now let's deselect this recording button. Let's click and scrub this white line back and forth, and you'll see that it now rotates back and forth. If I press play, it'll show it looping. If I wanted to add another property, let's say a transform property of position instead of rotation, let's start by clicking the red record button while our white line is sitting here at the first frame of this animation. Now we are going to click and drag. I'm pulling the yellow arrow because I can see at the bottom that that moves it all the way over here. That makes it so that's the start of our animation, it being at this position. Since we did not have a position property at any of the other points, you can see that there's no diamond in the center here. It's going to stay at that position when you scrub it now. But when I say scrub, I mean drag this white line back and forth on this timeline. Now it just moves back and forth like before, but in a different position. If I make sure that my white line is at 30, right in the middle here, and I move it by the red line, or I said yellow before, excuse me, it is only yellow when you are selecting it. I meant to say red. Click it and drag to the center, and then I'm also going to click and drag it upwards. Then I want it to be at the same exact height. Pretty much everything except for this x-axis here, I want to be, hold on, yeah, pretty much everything except for this x-axis here, I want to be the same as this first frame, this first keyframe here. Make sure that you have this recording button unselected. Left click to select that middle frame there. Press Ctrl C. Move over to this last frame. Make sure that says 60 seconds. Or it's actually, I believe, 60 milliseconds. Which would mean this is 1 second. At 1 second, press Ctrl V. That is going to paste that frame back there. Now when we press play, it is going to be flying back and forth, but from one direction, and then back to the starting point. Like I said, I want the x-axis to be different, so we make sure we are back on 60 milliseconds or 1 second. Press the record button and drag this red arrow all the way to the other side. Now we are going to deselect that recording button and press play again. Now you see it kind of just flies up and then it flies to the other side of the screen over and over and over again. And the only reason why it is playing over and over again is because you have this play button here. But if you actually press the play button for the scene, right now the animation is set to loop as well. Because once you added that animation and we started animating, it created an animator and made it so that this was the entry animation, and to set it to looping by default, to playing over and over again. Let's press play to deselect that. And now we are out of play mode. Press Ctrl S to make sure everything is saved. And then click Window, Animation, and Animator. This should pop up next to your Scene and Asset Store windows. And like I said, it added a spinning cube animation, the one you created, and it is the default animation. To make it so that it is not the default animation, go ahead and right-click, press Create State, and Empty. Then, up here to your top right in the inspector where it says New State, click it to highlight it, and type idle, and then press Enter. Then, right-click this box here in the animator, and press Set as Layer Default State. Now, when we press play, it is going to stay. See? Alright. Let's click back onto our animator panel. Right-click onto your idle animation. Press Make Transition and connect this arrow to your spinning cube animation. Now, after entering and setting to the idle animation, it'll go automatically to the spinning cube animation. We know that because we can click on this arrow and see that it does not have any conditions under the list of conditions. It says list is empty. And also, it says has exit time with the box checked next to it. That means that when this idle animation exits, it's a very quick animation, so that'll be pretty much immediate. It'll move on to this spinning cube animation. That means once I press play, we are going to see this cube move over here and go up and go to the right like we animated. Let me press play while still having the animator up so you can see how it works from the point of view of the animator. Do you see how at first that was playing and our box was at the center? And then it immediately moved on to the spinning cube animation. And since it is still set to loop, it is resetting at the starting point and redoing that animation over and over again. I am going to exit play mode. And then I am going to double click this box where it says spinning cube for the spinning cube animation. Then I am going to press the box next to loop time to deselect it, make sure that it is unchecked. Now it should go from the idle animation to the spinning cube animation, and it'll stop at the last place of the spinning cube animation. So our cube should be right here at the very end. Let's press play. And there you have it. We will work more with programming with animators in another tutorial, but for now, you understand how to animate a primitive object, how to create an animation, and how the animator works and the basics of transitions.